In this video, you will learn why you would want to consider to expand your Amazon business to European marketplaces. And particularly here in this session, we will talk about tax, value added tax, in short VAT or VAT, which is very important tax for European countries and what you need to know when you enter European marketplaces. Also, our guest Tom from AVASK company, he will be sharing with us what changes are coming in 2021 in terms of Brexit and other VAT regulations, so that you know in advance and you are prepared in order not to lose your Amazon account and not to be suspended. And as I mentioned, our guest is Tom from AVASK, and our video host is Lisette Lees. She works with different Amazon brands. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell, because here we talk to different Amazon experts, software creators, and event organizers.
Hello, Tom. It's great to have you here today. Before we go into today's topic, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do with Amazon sellers and how do you help them usually?
Of course, yeah. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on today. It's great to be recording with you, and I've seen so many videos from Orange Click, and it's great to finally be on here. So just introduction very quickly. My name's Tom Meek. I manage the international business development team, bit of a mouthful, at AVASK Accounting. And who are AVASK? Well, we're a firm of international chartered accountants and tax experts. Lucky us, we get to deal with the taxes so you don't have to. And with regards to, the core services that we offer, I'm sure we'll come on to later. But our mission as a company is really to lift that administrative burden of tax compliance so that you can focus on your core elements of your business. When do taxes come into place? Well, when you're expanding to the Europe or the US or any other marketplace, really, there's a number of taxes that you need to be aware of. So we give that consultation to start with, and then try and make that process as easy as it possibly can be. So we basically manage all the tax registration and compliance for you.
I think Amazon sellers appreciate your service a lot because they don't want to get to know all the laws and requirements by themselves, because it would take too much time and effort, and they won't have enough time to focus on running their business and building their business. And today you will talk about the European VAT rules and everything regarding to that. And I know you have a presentation for us as well. So let's go straight into it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So, in terms of Amazon sellers, I couldn't imagine doing what we do and also run an Amazon business at the same time. I would, I'd need someone like AVASK or another tax provider to stay on top of everything. So, understanding EU VAT when expanding your business. I mean, we're going to cover quite a lot of things. Obviously, please interrupt me if I'm talking too much or you want to ask a question as we go, because I deal with taxes on a daily basis. I deal with sellers on a daily basis. And obviously, we want to make sure that people can take actionable steps from this, but also understand everything I'm saying, instead of thinking, who is this person talking at a million miles an hour about VAT? I don't even know what VAT is. So I'll try and keep things really slow and try and explain things in the best possible way. There are a lot of changes coming up, which is why we thought it'd be great to put a video together for everyone today. But this is really going to be understanding sort of more of the EU side and the UK with Brexit and everything going on, and how that really impacts your business. So we've already done a bit about me. So I've been with the company for a couple of years now, and love actually dealing with e-commerce sellers that are looking to expand their businesses into new marketplaces. Some people are really small, turning over £1,000 a month, whatever it might be, just started, they're just sourced, and some people are turning over multi-millions. But either way, we're able to assist them on all scales. I think our clients come from over 50 countries and we speak over 20 languages. Everyone then asks me, what language do you speak? Just the one, unfortunately, which is English, and very poorly. So let's start off with why actually expand to Europe, which is a good place to start, seeing as we're going to be talking all about the EU, tax requirements, changes, and so on. So I always talk about four main points when looking at Europe. So The first one is your product visibility. The second is market diversification. Obviously, income streams. What's the point of doing all of this unless you've got an income stream? Then looking at the Amazon programs and of course the infrastructure as well. So just want to expand on a few of those points really. So visibility, well, hopefully visibility really speaks for itself. The more eyes that you can get on your products, the better. So it's really important to really exploit the opportunity of that 700 odd million people in the EU, that you can really capture their market and make sure that that you're selling to as many buyers as possible. So product visibility, absolutely essential. Marketplace diversification. So when we talk about marketplaces, we're referring to your Amazons, your eBays, Wayfair. Wayfair is a good example of someone that's selling like furniture and things. I spoke to a seller a couple of weeks ago now that's doing some great business on Amazon.co.uk and a little bit in Europe as well. But they're not selling on Wayfair, and they're selling like garden furniture and all that sort of thing. So it's really important to understand the different marketplaces that are available to you and make sure that you understand, well, if I sell X, is there a certain category that fits the marketplace? And even in some countries, there are very quickly growing marketplaces that people should be aware of. But 99% of the time, people are starting on Amazon, the growth from Amazon, and that's because it's so easy. Amazon have made it so easy with their fulfillment programs, which we're going to come on to in just a second. So diversification of income streams is point number 3. Income streams are obviously absolutely essential to any successful e-commerce business. And I think that the whole diversification element is the most important thing here. And that's because you don't want all of your eggs in one basket. There's a lot of competition out there in certain markets. You can find that you're selling really, really well in first quarter, but the second quarter in the UK, you've got some other competitor that's come in and undercut your prices. You really want to diversify those marketplaces, which will then lead to diversifying your income stream. So make sure that you spread the risk, that you have broaden your range of products that you're selling, so that you really limit the implications of any competition or anything coming in from there. In terms of the Amazon programs and infrastructure, Amazon programs, well, what we're talking about when we talk about Amazon programs, we're referring to sort of the different FBA solutions. So I would say that 99% of sellers that I deal with are all using Amazon FBA. It's absolutely brilliant that they're able to do it. It makes the whole fulfillment options so easy. So I would say use FBA to the best of your ability. Understand that you've got the pan-European program, you've got European selling and the fulfillment cross-border. Don't think that you need to dive in with 2 feet to every single marketplace when you expand to Europe. You've got various options available to you, thanks to the likes of FBA that make that really easy. So hopefully that's given a good understanding for why expand to Europe. So yeah, moving on to the next slide. Okay, so what is VAT? Well, VAT, of course, is a value-added tax. Now, I'm sure a lot of listeners are maybe based in the US and, well, probably all over the place. But let's compare it to sales tax. It's very, very similar. It's a tax that's added, at the point of sale, and there's other elements as well. But a value-added tax is actually reported to in the UK to HMRC, the Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Point 2 here is it's charged when value is added to goods or services, really importantly at every point of the supply chain. So up to this point of sale to the end customer. Okay, so it's added at each point that value is added. Sellers need to include VAT in the price of their goods or services. So this is really important. So when you actually go, and I fell for this when I went to the US, classic example, I'm sure everyone's heard it before. I've gone round, I've bought all my items. I was in one of those fancy stores that I was treating myself to some new clothes. I got to the till, and then I think 8 or 9% was added at the end. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. The good thing about Europe, or you could say good or bad, is the tax is actually already incorporated within the sale price. So you've got the VAT rates down the side there, ranging between 19 and 23% as a broad term in terms of sort of the Amazon key marketplaces and the Pan-European program. So that 20%, more or less, is going to be incorporated within that sale price. Okay, so the seller, as in yourself selling in Europe, acts as a tax collector on behalf of the authorities that you're selling in. Okay, I don't know if you had any questions on that, or am I being clear so far?
I think so far everything is going good, because when you talk about US, I remember how I had the same situation in the food store when I didn't understand first that I will be added some tax later when I go out. So yeah, it's funny difference between Europe and US.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always an interesting sort of comparison on the two. I think everyone that's sort of listening to this from the EU side have a much better understanding. I think a lot of people I speak to from the US are like, what is he going on? VAT? What's VAT? And why is it incorporated within the price? So it's something that we always like to iron out at the start. It is incorporated within the price, and there are different VAT rates across the EU and UK. So VAT explained. So we're talking about sort of going through when VAT is added. So you've got the raw material plus VAT. You've got the production, manufacturing, there's VAT. You've got the wholesale retailer, there's also VAT, and you can probably guess at the end, you've got the end consumer or customer buying, there is also VAT, okay? So that is charged or added at every point of the timeline as a product goes from A to B, from the raw material right the way through to the end consumer. So hopefully that has given everyone a brief understanding for what VAT is. Yes, it's collected. It's where we come in really as a provider. We help sort of with that registration and compliance service. So if you want to expand, we will get you registered and make sure that we handle the VAT returns on a monthly or quarterly basis, so you don't need to worry about it. So we're going to look at understanding the European VAT. And the reason that we brought this up is because there's a lot of key changes that are going to come into play as from 2021, which is just around the corner. So let's rewind and look at the sort of the current situation of the VAT system. We're just going to go through these one by one and then sort of look at the comparison. So current VAT system imposed on all member states and in the EU for VAT. So multiple reports to be filed. VAT exemption for importation for small items below £15 or €22. And the mini one-stop shop. So that's sort of the current VAT system that we're dealing with. Now, if we compare that to the new VAT system, then you've got the VAT e-commerce package. So that's being put together, which is the start of 2021, where this is going to be rolled out. There's going to be new one returns, sort of on the one-stop shop side, which is going to be coming into place in July. Again, you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? All of these things are going to be explained further as we go on throughout the year, making sure that everyone, one, is compliant, and two, is able to sort of understand what they need to do and how it's going to implement their or impact their business. And also marketplaces are going to be treated as the deemed supplier. And the best way of explaining that is it's very similar to sort of the marketplace facilitator in the US, where Amazon's sort of partly responsible for collecting and remitting those taxes. So the current EU VAT system is uniform VAT registration requirements across Europe. However, different countries with different annual selling thresholds and distance selling thresholds. So basically, what that means is that there's two main reasons why you would currently need to sell, or rather register, for VAT in the EU or UK. So number one, and these are real textbook things, I'd really recommend everyone making note of this or remembering this, because think, well, what are the VAT requirements in the EU or the UK? These are the two things you need to remember. When you're storing your inventory in one or more EU countries, okay? So when you're storing your goods, similar to physical nexus, when you've got your goods stored there, you need to register for VAT. Number one rule. Number two rule is when selling your goods from an EU warehouse to another EU country and you breach the distance selling thresholds of the country of arrival. Now, I'm going to give a quick example because probably everyone's thinking, what's DST? Okay, so you've got to imagine, let's say Germany, France. When I sell my products and they're stored in Germany and I sell to a buyer in France, okay, in one calendar year, there is so many sales in terms of sales volumes that I can conduct before I breach what's called the distance selling threshold, the sales threshold, similar to economic nexus when selling from one country to another, or one state to another. So let's take Germany to France. If my products are stored in Germany and only Germany, then I'm selling cross-border into France, okay? So with regards to where that leaves France, I've got up to 35,000 euros in total sales from Germany to France before I breach the distance selling threshold, because the distance selling threshold, otherwise known as DST, is 35,000 euros in France. Now, what happens when I go over the 35,000 euro threshold? Well, it means I need to register for VAT from that point, and the VAT is not then chargeable to the country of departure, but to the country of arrival. So all of that VAT I'm paying at 19% in Germany on each sale, I then start paying to France, okay? Because everything over and above that 35,000 is payable to the country of arrival, okay? Are you still with me? Am I still making sense? All good?
I think you're explaining everything very good, because I really like that you have clear visuals in the presentation as well. So it's quite easy to follow you. And so far, I'm with you.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully I'm explaining it okay. If I'm going too quick, slow me down. I'm very guilty of going too quickly. So hopefully that sort of covered what is VAT, when are you liable for VAT, and when are we liable for VAT? When your goods are stored in a country or when you've broken a distance selling threshold, okay? Distance selling thresholds vary, 35,000 in France, Italy, Spain, 100,000 euros in Germany. So hopefully that's cleared things up there. So 2021, what actually is the need for change? Okay, so 4 main points here. Well, to combat fraud, okay, number one, there's a lot of sellers out there that are not compliant. How do we make sure that they're compliant? The second one is to narrow the gap for VAT. There's a huge difference on what's due and what's paid, billions of pounds in lost VAT that should have been paid that hasn't been. So really trying to close the gap on the VAT that's due, and to ensure fair competition. And when we say that, you know, if you've got some sellers that are marking up by 20% and some aren't, you know, it's very imbalanced. So what is very good is that I would say maybe a year or so ago, the whole situation of some sellers not being compliant and making it a very unfair market. It's fair to say now where UK, Germany and France especially have really tightened up the requirements and the legislation that's around paying VAT, it's made it almost impossible for e-commerce sellers on marketplaces such as Amazon to trade without having a VAT number. So regardless, they're either going to be caught out at some point with heavy fines and penalties, or they're just going to be shut down. So it's really, really good news for those of you that have been compliant from day one or are going to be compliant from day one, because that competition level is going to be much, much more fair as time goes on, and it already is. And of course, to simplify regulations. At the moment, there's loads of different tax offices you need to pay. You need to worry about different VAT rates, distance selling thresholds. You know, it has a real, when I speak to a US client, for example, that's looking to expand to the EU, I start talking about distance selling and VAT, as I said, and they start to think, you know, what's going on here? Why is it so different? Okay, so let's look at the new EU VAT system. So firstly, there is going to be a one-stop shop. What is the one-stop shop? We'll probably come onto it a little bit later, but ultimately, what do we mean by one-stop shop? We mean that there's going to be one centralized place of your choice, one country that you pick to actually file your VAT returns to on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on the countries you're selling in. Does it mean that you need to register for VAT in other countries? If you're storing, yes, it does. You still need to register. But as that change comes into place, sort of towards the middle of next year, that's when everyone's going to start to see those changes being implemented. And that is only a benefit, I would say, to sellers, because it's going to become much easier to file the VAT. You're still going to need someone like ourselves to manage that process for you, but it's definitely going to become quite a lot easier for sellers to manage the expectation and manage the requirements on that monthly or quarterly basis. Okay, moving on. So withdrawal of distance selling thresholds. So I've just explained distance selling thresholds, and yes, they are going to be withdrawn. So you're thinking now, why have I explained them? Well, as I said, it's not going to be the case until sort of around July next year. So all sales taxed in the country of arrival. As we said, if I make a sale from Germany to France currently, and some people calculate this slightly differently, but Germany will be the place of supply, therefore it's the place that the VAT gets paid to until you breach the distance selling threshold. Whereas with this new system that's coming into place, all sales taxed in the country of arrival. So if you make a sale to into France, then the VATs are automatically chargeable to France, but you'll actually pay that VAT to the place where you want to, let's say Germany in this case, and then Germany will actually pass it on to France for you. So they're doing it and making it much more streamlined, which is good news. Okay, small businesses have a threshold of 10,000 euros. So again, small businesses with that threshold is a bonus there of the 10,000 euros. Marketplaces are deemed suppliers. It's a very new change in terms of similar to the US, where Amazon marketplaces as such will be actually classed as deemed suppliers. So they'll be somewhat responsible for collecting and remitting those taxes on your behalf. New import VAT scheme, so for low value consignments, so under a certain threshold there will be some relief there, or some new import schemes, so no import in some cases. So definitely we'll be updating sellers as that change comes into place towards obviously the start of next year. EU VAT rules, let's have a quick look into these. So one single declaration for all distance sales. Okay, so these are the new rules that will be coming into place next year. Okay, so how do you prepare for them? That's what we're going to come on to. So there'll be one single declaration for all distance sales. So when you're trading, again, back to our example of Germany into the likes of France, that is a distance sale because you're going over the border into France. Okay, so that's a distance sale. So all your declarations will actually go through one country. Okay, so let's say that you incorporate in Germany, or you've got your VAT number in Germany. All of your VAT returns for all of your distance sales, so cross-border sales, will be filed through that single channel, and then they'll be divvied out from there by the tax office in that country. Okay, so much more simple. Tax authorities redistribute the VAT to all the EU countries where VAT is owed. As I've just explained, they'll be responsible for then sending it out. So instead of having 6-7 VAT returns potentially, or 6-7 thresholds or that you've breached, that will all be filed under one country. EU companies must register where they are established. So if you are a Germany-based company, then you are required to register for where you're actually going to be storing. I believe that's now a requirement that you do actually need to file the VAT for where you're incorporated, where you're established. So you'll end up paying all of the VAT through that platform. Non-EU companies must register under non-union scheme and select a country for OSS registration. So if you're a non-EU based company, then you must register, okay, under a non-union scheme. So this is slightly separate from the point above, and elect a country. So you get to then select a country for the OSS. So that might be, okay, well, majority of my sales are in Germany, so let's pick OSS, one-stop shop, which is what it stands for, in Germany, so that you pay all of your VAT through that country, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you've got any questions on this, or you're still thinking that doesn't make sense to me, how does this affect my business? That's why we're here, free consultation. So please, you'll probably find my details at the end, or you'll see our details of AVASK Accounting at the bottom there. Please make an inquiry through the website. Okay, so moving on. Selling in the UK after Brexit. Okay, so there's a lot of questions that come around Brexit, the dreaded B word. In terms of what it means and what the situation is, I mean, ultimately, over the whole of 2020, we've been we've been going through a transition period where the UK is obviously leaving the EU. And we've been trying to get there with a deal by the end of this year. But ultimately, the UK is going to be seen as a third country. Okay, so there will be new customs borders in between the UK and the EU. And I'm going to come on to how that may affect you, whether you're selling already or whether you're not. And the UK is no longer an EU member state and part of the EU single market, which means, of course, that free movement of goods that everyone was absolutely loving before the end of the year will now no longer be in place. So 3 points, all in yellow on screen. These are the 3 points that everyone needs to take away of them. Well, we're not going to be part of that EU single market. There's going to be a new customs border, and we're now deemed as a third country in the UK. Okay, completely separate. So what does that actually mean for you as a company? Well, it depends on your situation, really. What does this mean for you? Well, if you're a UK-based business and you want to actually distance sell into the EU, which is what everyone was able to obviously do at the start and what you were able to do until the end of 2020, then that's got some great benefits. You could register in the UK for VAT. You could be distance selling into Germany, into France, into Italy, and only be VAT registered in the UK. Absolute blessing in disguise about the EU is that you can distance sell. It's a real bonus under multiple marketplaces. It's what the US market, in my opinion, doesn't have because there's only the one marketplace as opposed to, like, what are we now, 6 or 7. So that's really, really important to know. So what do you do if you're currently in the EU and selling to the UK, or actually fulfilling in the UK and selling to the EU? Well, the best thing for you to do is to split your inventory. Okay, you need inventory stored in the UK and you need inventory stored in the EU. Now, Amazon FBA under the Pan-EU program at the moment currently transfers that stock for you, but that will stop because it's in the name. The European Fulfillment Network and the Pan-European both have the European in. The UK will no longer be part of the EU. Therefore, those programs are separated from the UK. The UK is a third country, it's a separate entity, and the EU will have to cater for itself. So what's the recommendation? Well, one, we recommend splitting stock, okay? And the other is that we get an EORI number, but we're going to come on to that a little bit later on. I presume we're about over halfway through the presentation, so we're getting a lot of it covered. So please stay with me. We are near the end. I'm sure everyone's brain is sore already from all the information that's coming through. So UK VAT post-Brexit. So there's an abolishment of low consignment relief, okay, on import VAT on consignments of goods under £15 or less. Abolishment of low consignment relief, okay? So on the import VAT, all under goods under £15. So it's really, really important to know. From consignment of goods not exceeding £135 in value, that is accounted for at the point of sale, okay? So that import VAT will actually be required on the sale as opposed to as you come in. Online marketplaces are responsible for collecting and remitting VAT to HMRC if facilitating the sale, okay? So again, very similar to the US structure, Amazon or the marketplace that you're trading under will be responsible for actually getting all of those taxes in and paying them to HMRC if they're the ones that are facilitating the sale. You are still required to register for UK VAT. So it's really important. Just because Amazon are doing it for you doesn't mean that you don't need to register. You certainly do, okay? We're very, very close to the end. I think we're on the last couple of slides. Everyone's thinking we're halfway through and we're actually right at the end. So VAT and EORI numbers. I've really lightly touched on this a second ago. But for VAT and EORI numbers, to sell in both the UK and the EU, you will need to make sure that you possess both of these numbers. Now, a VAT number, value added tax number, is required back to the start for 2 reasons. The first reason is that you're storing goods, and the second reason is because of distance selling thresholds. So because of that, you're going to need to register for VAT in the country that you're storing in. So get your VAT numbers in the UK because it's separate, and the EU because that will then cater for the rest of Europe. The good thing about that is you can still trade under the distance selling thresholds from one EU country to another. And then on the other side, you've got the GB and EU EORI number. What is an EORI number? Well, it's an employer organisation registration identification number, but it's an EORI number basically is a number that allows you to, in fact, it's not, it's economic. Always get confused on that one. It's a number that allows you to clear your goods at customs. So when you are bringing goods in from China, wherever it may be, into the UK, you'll have your EORI number to clear your goods at customs. If you've got a UK EORI number now and you're thinking of shipping to Germany, currently that will be okay. But as come 2021, you're going to need a EU EORI number so that you can clear your goods at customs. And that EU EORI number is going to be any country. You can apply in France and you can clear in Italy. You can get it in Italy and clear in France. So it's the same process as it was before, minus the UK EORI. Unfortunately, the UK EORI was the most popular, purely on the basis that everyone used the UK as or the majority of people used the UK as a bit of a gateway into the EU. Customs clearance is quick. The EORI, the UK VAT registration is quick. So now people are going to have to prepare for Brexit by splitting inventory, getting the VAT numbers in both EU and UK, and getting the additional EORI number. I've just talked for ages. My mouth's sore. I hope that that's made sense. And of course, my contact details are there. I'm sure we're going to go for a few questions anyway.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Actually, Amazon sellers appreciate it a lot when the presentation is super clear and it's rather gone through fast than slowly, because time is money for all the sellers, and that's easier to grasp the information because anytime they can pause the presentation as well and come back to the points you explained. So I think you did a really good job. So as you're working with Amazon sellers on daily basis, like what's your overall feeling regarding Brexit and Amazon? Is there enough information available for sellers regarding what steps they have to do, what changes, or is there still rather confusion?
Look, I think it's a good question. I would say that sort of 70–80% of our time at the moment within certainly my team and sort of that business development front end consultation is all about preparing for Brexit. Some sellers are much more prepared than others. So European sellers tend to understand the whole Brexit deal and or no deal and the requirements there in quite a pragmatic and sort of different way to what a overseas seller from like maybe the US or like further afield. So with that said, it really depends case by case as to the understanding that people have for Brexit. Where we are now, I mean, it's getting very late in the year to start thinking about preparing. Hopefully people have done it a little bit already or done it already so that they are ready. I would say that as we sort of just went through on the last slide, depending on your situation, which is sort of where our one-on-one consultation comes in, which is completely free to understand people's situations, I would say the main things that you need to consider is, well, you need that VAT number in both the UK and the EU. You need the EORI number in the UK and EU, and so that you can then split your shipments to cater. Because as from the end of this year, if you're on the European fulfillment network, where you're trading from one country into the EU, so the UK into the EU, Amazon will stop fulfilling orders cross-border, okay, with that new customs border between the UK and EU. So you're going to be cutting off a huge percentage of your market. So it's really, really important that everyone comes to grips with that. That registration, as a lot of you know, in some countries can take a couple of weeks, but in the majority can take 2 or 3 months, okay? So think about the timeframes, think about preparing. There are things you can do pre-end of the year, so that you can try and minimize those burdens as much as possible, like by stock loading, using a 3PL, looking at getting that Italian VAT number, which takes a week or so, getting that EORI application in. So I'd really suggest people think to not leave Brexit to the last day and really find themselves with some issues. Think about how you can take those actionable steps now to make sure that your EU business is as solid and continuous as possible.
Okay, you mentioned the time frame for registering and getting the registration of VAT. So can you give us a little bit of background information between different EU countries? What's the time frame? Like in which country it's usually a fast process to get the VAT number, and in which countries it tends to be like more of a long-term process?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to say it was a day for all of them, but it's not. It is so across the board, the main countries that we deal with, I'll just pick like the main 5 or 6, just because we offer services and over probably 15 to 20 countries now across like US, Australia, UAE, but the core EU countries on topic for the talk today. UK, couple of weeks. Germany, I would say on average is for EU or UK based companies, probably 3 months, 2 to 3 months. But for US companies or overseas companies, maybe for like China as well, is a little longer. Sometimes it's 3 to 4. Unfortunately, there's a backlog with COVID with all of these that they're still getting sorted. And some tax offices are a little bit more, a little bit dated in terms of how they operate. HMRC is actually brilliant in terms of like how we operate all of the registrations and how advanced we are as a company, as a country. So that's UK, Germany, France, Spain, Poland, and Czech Republic. I would say average 8 to 10 weeks. And Italy is the quickest. Italy, we get live within a week. We love Italy because that's sort of the go-to for Brexit and sellers, obviously, that are coming to the end of the year, that they really need to split that inventory. It's like, well, panic, what can I do from the 1st of January? Register in Italy if you need to, and make sure that that flow is constant.
So if anybody is watching us who is a seller and he's needing to register a VAT as soon as possible because of the Brexit and they haven't done anything yet, then your recommendation would be to either try with Italy and then later try registering VAT for another country, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number. You can speak to so many different companies, different people, even within our company, and it's down to the individual needs of the business and their current setup. Italy, the main benefit really is that you can feed FBA from there, and it's a very quick registration. Okay, so they're the two benefits. Now, Italy doesn't tend to be the largest market for the majority of people. It's normally like Germany followed by France. So a lot of people are wanting that EORI and extra VAT number in Germany mostly, and France. Now, Germany takes the longest for VAT registration. France takes 8 to 10 weeks. So it might be a little bit of a middle ground there for France. The EORI applications, for Germany, it's recommended that you have the EORI in German if you're going to be shipping to Germany, because the customs clearance is much quicker if the EORI number is based in Germany as opposed to using a French EORI number. So there's advantages there of having the EORI in the country that you're shipping to, but it takes longer to get. So you've always got to balance these things up. Customs clearance in Germany takes much longer than it does in France, especially like looking at the UK and the Netherlands. A lot of people are seeing the Netherlands as the gateway to Europe, especially if they're quite large profile sellers and they're sending large shipments, containers over, because you've got benefits of the Netherlands, things like sort of the deferment scheme for import VAT and a whole host of other benefits. And but obviously there's no FBA centre there. So if you're feeding pan-EU from the Netherlands, then you've got those additional transportation costs. So there's pros and cons to everything, but I would tempt people to have a conversation with us, and we're happy to advise on that per each individual situation.
Okay, yeah, because now you throw in a lot of details that keep my head already spinning around. So can you, as a last thing, I thought I will ask, does Amazon also help sellers to register for VAT or do the monthly fillings, or only third-party companies as you can help Amazon sellers?
Yes, great question. One that's not really discussed that much. It's always been sort of something in the background, really. But Amazon do have their own VAT services. So that is live. I know that's a software-based solution. So a lot of sellers are using Amazon VAT services and get on with it very, very well and enjoy that. We are obviously a third party. Although we have a very heavy involvement with Amazon. We've been working with them for 7 years now. So we still get a lot of referrals through and deal with a lot of contacts there. So really it's a complete divide in what we offer and what the service level is on both. Ultimately, they'll both aspects will file your VAT as long as you're connected properly and you've done everything properly on the registration. There's a lot of changes, as you've just seen in the presentation, things like OSS, things like Amazon, collecting and remitting in some situations, distance selling thresholds being withdrawn. And I would say now is a crucial time to make sure that you have a tax expert on hand to be able to deal with the current situation. We also have a tax software which will calculate the tax and also provide visibility on what's due, but as well as having a dedicated tax advisor alongside. So that element of consultation with one person, I'm just manage the business development team. There are tax experts internally in local languages that are there to manage a small portfolio of clients, to make sure that the level of consultation is as high as it can be, and also to make sure that any questions, queries, problems, information from tax offices are dealt with immediately. And that's really the difference of going for a software-based solution a bit cheaper and going for like a third party like ourselves that will be providing that very high level consultation and business planning as you go.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's very good information for sellers to, when they are considering how they want to proceed with VAT registrations and everything that's connected with that. So thank you so much for coming here today. And if anybody has any questions to you, what's the best way to reach out to you? And could you once more explain how do you usually help Amazon sellers?
Yeah, of course. So my email is tom.meek, which is MEEK @avaskgroup.com. Head over to the AVASK website, by all means. You'll find us on the SPN, Service Providers Network. Find us most places. Type in AVASK to your Google page, inquire through the website. But I'll repeat the email in just a second. Where do we help sellers? Anyone that's looking to expand their business to a new marketplace, or they want help in their existing marketplace, anything to do with accounting, tax, patents, trademarks, and just general compliance, feel free to reach out to us. We aren't just like an accounting and VAT experts, we're business consultants as well. So we understand that it's quite hard to get a lot of information out of certain providers. We have free consultation available at the start. So I just say make the most of our services and understand that we've got a depth of knowledge, especially with Amazon and sort of other e-commerce platforms. So use what's there. We're happy to have a chat, even if you're 3, 6, 9 months further away from expanding. Understand the requirements early. Make sure that you're compliant from day one, and make sure that you put a real strategy in place to achieve it, and don't go half-hearted into any marketplace. Understand everything. So yeah, my email is tom.meek, which is M for mother, EEK, @avaskgroup.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we wish good luck in your business.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. Speak soon.
I do hope you learned something useful about VAT and taxes in Europe, also about the changes from 2021. And if you need help with VAT taxes, check the links to AVASK and contact them for help. And now I would like to invite you to watch the playlist of different videos we collected and we recorded about European marketplace. So you will learn more than taxes. So watch this playlist and see you in the next video. Bye bye.